When $100,000 isn't enough for a deposit. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, let's have a look at this article from news.com.au that's doing the rounds. Heartbreaking, a Sydney family saved $100,000, but are totally priced out of the property market. So 100 grand isn't enough for them to get into the market. There's a little bit to this story that we'll have a look at. Amy and Ben have $100,000 saved to buy a home for their growing family, but were stunned when their mortgage broker told them it wasn't nearly enough. So 100 grand isn't enough in Sydney to get into property. But there's a little bit more to their story. And it's part of the reason why I'm not at all worried about easing lending restrictions. You know, every other commentator is worried that this is going to be a big issue. But the banks are risk managers, guys. They will manage their risk to a T. Years ago, Rachel and I, before we were even married, we actually bought a portion of my parents' house. We bought 1/5 of it, under 100 grand, to allow them just to pay off all of their debts, and to essentially, so my father could retire at home, so they wouldn't have to sell the property. The idea was we wanted to get into the real estate market, and we thought, you know, there might be a potential growth down in Gold Coast. So when after we did that, we ended up, buying 100 grand. There's not much of a mortgage. You barely notice the repayments. But then we years later, we bought our own place, the one here that we're fixing up. And I wanted to consolidate everything. I wanted to get all the loans onto this one house just to free up that property so it wouldn't matter. Because, of course, we got some capital gains here, some increased equity, shall we say. And I went to the bank and I told them I wanted to move this mortgage off this house and put it on this one here that we have, a primary residence. And I said, look, it'll save me money in weekly repayments. It'll make my cash flow easier. And just the process of jumping through those hoops was a nightmare because, well, we have kids, we had a small business, we don't tick any of the boxes. It's ironic when one of your employees has an easier time getting a loan than a small business owner does. I always found that quite frustrating, to be honest. And so we had to get like a special bank broker that actually understands the challenges of businesses. I'm going, what's the point here, guys? This is going to reduce my actual cash flow. But they were so worried about their risk, they wanted to manage their risk. And just recently, I started talking to some banks to potentially refinance to get one of those super low mortgage rates. But I've got a big problem now. I've got a really big problem. And let's see, I'm going to have a shot of coffee. Let's see if the regulars of the channel can let us know what that is. So nope, it's not that I'm on YouTube. It's just a small business like any other. It's because I have children. I've got a lot of children now. So we've got 5 kids. And the banks will just see that and think, they cost a fortune, when they really don't, honestly. Kids do not cost that much money. I don't know where anyone is getting all these insane costs from. Maybe it's because, you send every child to 5 extracurricular activities. You buy them the latest computer. You pay for a $40,000 a year school. All of this stuff that we ain't doing. Not a chance. You'll spoil them then. One thing that always I find quite sad in a way is these kids that are just crammed full of so many extracurricular things, they don't have any time to play, to use their imagination, to get bored as a child. We all did. I used to play in the backyard as a kid. What would we do? Because my father was a builder. I'd use the tools and we'd hammer things together and build cubby houses and hurt ourselves and get dirty. I remember once he had these big elastic bands, and I'd hammer them to pieces of timber so we could shoot pencils at each other. Well, I mean, boys will be boys. That's normal behavior, at least I'm hoping it's still normal. Boy, anyway. So you can see we've had some experiences with the banks and just the challenges of, getting mortgages and moving them around and, even trying to refinance. Because they are so risk averse. Hey, maybe it's easier. Maybe I should ring up now and see, but I doubt it. With 5 kids, they think it's the moon. So there's a few things with this family that shows you that they may not be the best place to position your risk. So, despite having $100,000 in savings, Amy Kitts and her husband Ben feel hopeless about their dream of ever owning a house in Sydney, and say they are priced out of the market despite their huge chunk of money. Well, this is Sydney, everyone. Property is just insanely expensive. It's like the couple that wanted to buy in Burleigh Heads and they had a 50 grand deposit. Remember that? We looked at that, and they weren't a Burleigh Heads type of couple. They didn't have enough money. She may have been going there on the weekend and felt like she was a Burleigh Heads couple, or spending like someone living in Burleigh, or someone pretending to live in Burleigh Heads does. I imagine the people who've, bought in there on the nice hill, they probably aren't that stupid with their money. You've got to start a bit smaller. You've got to move a bit further out, then upgrade, then maybe you retire to the nice on the beach thing. You can't go straight away to the nice place. Ben was devastated to lose his job at the start of the pandemic, but the couple squirreled away the redundancy pay to top up their savings. With Amy only working 3 days a week, they moved into her parents' house. So, okay, he's lost his job. The primary breadwinner has lost his job. His wife's only working 3 days a week. And a big chunk of their deposit is redundancy. What bank is going to look at that favorably? They're projecting forward 30 years. Come on. The 37-year-old found a new job as a casual. So it's a casual job. And he hasn't been in it long. I mean, good on him. Good work. A father finding jobs. You do what you got to do when you support a family. Okay? You just do what you got to do. You swallow your pride. You don't listen to all those whingers that say you're too good for this. You do what you've got to do to keep money coming in for your family. That's rule number one of being a dad. Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the advantages when you can start having children. I'd say it adds to your ability to not give a crap about what others think about you, because you've got more important things to deal with. At least you should have. So good on him. So they've been married for 7 years, decided to live off his earnings and use the $1,000 a fortnight from Amy's part-time job to top up their savings. Okay, well, that's good. That's smart. They're moving in with their parents. And I've got another video I'll release on Sunday discussing that, where some young people have moved in with their parents and then they're moving back out. But I mean, you've got to do what you have to do, everyone. If you have the opportunity to do that, if your parents are willing to put up with your young family and to just, because it can be a bit annoying all sharing together. There's more pressures. The dynamics have changed, but it's a part of life to help them out getting ahead. It's good to see. A year later, they never thought they would still be living with Amy's parents, along with their 2-year-old daughter. But the search for their own home is proving impossible, Miss Kitts said. We met with a mortgage broker who gave us the heartbreaking news that $100,000 of hard savings would be swallowed up by fees alone, meaning we didn't actually have a deposit at all, she told news.com.au. It still blows my mind and makes me angry thinking about that. Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of fees and charges with doing this. Now, New South Wales is different to Queensland with regards to conveyancing. I think you need lawyers to handle it all. Here you can do it yourself in Queensland. And it's a rigmarole. It really is, having done it, to save a couple of grand. But hey, save me $2 grand. I would have done it now with this house. I did it with my mother selling her place and jumped through all the hoops. And the hardest thing was, because my father had passed away and my mother was downsizing, was just communicating to all the different government bureaucracies, just with the death notice and all of those things. There's a whole lot of back and forth. Really, really hardened my position against bureaucrats with regards to property, and really would love to have like some type of crypto blockchain system that automates it all, but there you go. We'll see. So the mortgage broker told the Kitts that after stamp duty, conveyancing fees, loan application, transfer fees, mortgage registration fee, building inspection reports, and the loan application, they will be left with just $59,000 from their savings. Well, stamp duty, that's just the tax. Conveyancing, loan applications, transfer fees, yeah, a lot of this you got to pay. You can kind of shave a little bit off here and there if you're willing to do stuff yourself. I mean, building inspections, you really should get them done. We actually didn't get one done on this house because it probably would have scared us away. Well, this place we've bought, there was 3 offers and 3 rejections on building inspections because I've got to replace the gutters. I've got asbestos in certain parts of it. I've got to re-stump it. I mean, we knew what we were buying. We were paying for the land. You know, I had a staff member came past yesterday, that, you know, or ex-staff member, they borrow our scanning equipment, a lot of it. And he was shocked to see just how much land we actually had, because we finally cleared it in preparation. I'm starting demolishing now. So there's these costs all add up. And remember, these are taxes. These are taxes and charges. I wonder if, well, you've got to remember as well, you've got now all the energy efficiency garbage if you want to sell. There's a whole lot of stuff on the seller's side. So this is all being based on $1 million house, which obviously we can't afford. But there doesn't seem to be anything under $1 million in Sydney anyway, she said. Well, here's the thing. They've got to move. They can't settle in Sydney. If they want to get into property, they have to move. They have to up stumps and move. Sydney now just isn't for a family at their level anymore. It's not for normal people. It's not for normal people, guys. This is what is happening in the lucky country, everyone. This is what I'm saying, where your quality of life is not going to be the same as your parents'. You're not going to be able to achieve the same. It's not going to be as easy. There are going to be some fantastic advantages that we have these days that our parents didn't have. So you've got to kind of weigh it up. But housing isn't one of them, sadly. But there's other better things, honestly. What would you rather? Cheaper housing and crappy dietary advice, or more expensive housing but access to the internet, and you can actually get legitimate and cutting-edge dietary advice and live a healthier life? What would you rather? You know, what would give you a better life in old age? Having a house fully paid off, or having $1 million house and the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia, or not? There's one for you. That's a perspective I'm taking with all of this. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, look at some of the lectures from Low Carb Down Under, and some pushes to change the dietary guidelines, particularly with the food that's provided to people in aged care homes. So they're left with $59,000, which is less than the 20% deposit we would need. And we'd need mortgage insurance, which was almost 40 grand. I mean, that's a big con, mortgage insurance. The banks should pay that, not you. I'm trying to get, I think we got mortgage insurance. And now with the equity increase, we're well within the healthy level. Where I want a refund. I spoke to a broker mate. He said, good luck. Let me know if you've ever managed to get a refund on the mortgage insurance with an equity increase. I have to look into it if it's possible. So the other option was my parent. Oh, here we go. Here's the big problem. Was my parents give us a big chunk of money in equity from their house, but they are retired and don't know what the situation is going to be like. If the pandemic will come back with a vengeance, and we don't want to risk putting my parents out of their house when they're retired. Now, here's the thing. If the parents have cash, and can afford to say, here you go, we'll give you this money, or we'll lend you this money, pay us off over time, don't tell anyone. What's wrong with that? Do you have an issue with that? It's a gift. A gift. But it's a bit different if they're taking money off their house, taking a loan when they're retired. Then there's an element of risk. That's one reason why I wanted to get the mortgage off my parents' house and have it on here, in case, you know, we went under, and the bank started force selling things. That's one reason why, to reduce risk, because that's a thing. You know, we gave them money, we bought a part of it, but I didn't want them to have the risk associated with it. That's another thing to think about. And a lot of people don't have this option. They don't have the option. In March, CoreLogic's data found Sydney median property values, including both units and houses, is now a staggering $895,000. In July last year, the number of suburbs in Sydney with home values above 1 million rose to 209. The kid's mortgage broker worked out that with the 100 grand, the most the family could borrow was 630,000, which means the house itself had to be no more than 580,000. I mean, even that seems crazy. 580 grand. And you could build a little specky for that, but you know what it is. Do you know what's driving up prices in Sydney? Land keeps going up, guys. Sure, construction, it's expensive. It's expensive. It's going up there, but the land isn't counted in CPI because it's an investment. The 35-year-old mum said she felt hopeless after meeting with the mortgage broker. It doesn't feel like we would be any different if we had 20 grand or 100 grand savings, and there doesn't seem to be any value in our money, she said. She added, they were well aware they couldn't afford a $1 million mortgage, but house prices were unrealistic. This is the thing, guys. You've got to move. You've got to move. You've got to look at somewhere else. I mean, he's got a casual job. There's no stability there. She's got a 3-day-a-week job. You can't live in Sydney. You're not earning enough. We are totally priced out. I'm not searching for a mansion in the eastern suburbs. I just want a family home with a small backyard for my daughter, close to family, as my parents get older. Yeah, you can't do that. What they may need to do, honestly, the parents may need to sell. The parents should sell, and then they should all move if they want to be closer to the family. But I know, the parents may want to stay there, but I mean, if they've got a big family home, maybe they don't need it. Maybe this is time for them to downsize. I've got a colleague I know, he ended up buying an acreage with his parents. And they've got a little house, a little granny flat there, and they built a family house there and it gave them enough. The most upsetting part is that nothing is going to change. Politicians don't seem to care. There is no help and house prices are going to continue to rise. Well, okay. Politicians are not the answer. Okay, I'm hoping that's what she's learning. Their politicians are part of the problem. They're juicing up the housing market, everyone. We've seen this. There should have been a correction in housing, but the banks extended mortgages. Government implemented JobKeeper. You've got job seeker bonuses going out there. You've got interest rates are just being pushed down. The Reserve Bank doesn't care about house prices. They care more about employment. They don't care about you. You're not going to have the life that your parents had. That's just it. It just shows you. Or you probably would. But you just have to move further away. You can't have it in Sydney anymore. What about Newcastle? Well, even that's gone up, but you know what I mean. Going further out. I'm not that familiar with Sydney, but I know here the couple that was looking on Burleigh Heads should have been looking at the other side of the highway. It's just cheaper. You've got to adjust your expectations. I mean, I would love, well, actually, no, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't love to have a place really close to Brisbane, really in the city. We're about 30 minutes out. But we're closer to the Gold Coast, where I've got family. We can go out to Ipswich and Toowoomba really easily if we need to. We're in this quite unique area, and we're south side, so it's better than the north side. But in a city, I wouldn't get as much land. I have a much smaller block. I couldn't build a 9-bedroom house that I'm planning to build here. For Mr. Kitts, a hospitality worker. He's wondering how the couple can ever get ahead, particularly with news like a recent Deloitte Access Economics report, which found Australian workers could be waiting for up to 5 years for wage growth to return to just 2%. Well, you're not going to get ahead being a worker. Not anymore, not in Australia. Wage growths are stagnant. There's going to be more and more competition. You've got to start your own business. You've got to be entrepreneurial. Yeah. You're not going to be able to buy a house as a casual hospitality worker in Sydney. I mean, with a wife only working 3 days a week and a 2-year-old daughter. There's no way the bank is going to lend you that much money in Sydney. Come on. You've got to move. You've got to change your expectations. Maybe this is just the dose of reality falling on this couple. Am I being too cruel here? Do people not realize that they may not be at a socioeconomic level to buy in Sydney? Australia's a class divide country, guys. We've got a K-shaped economy. We've got different classes living in different areas. Don't kid yourself if we don't. So, there's been stagnant wage growth in the last 4 or 5 years. And we've been warned it's going to be even slower coming out of the pandemic. Yeah, he said. We might be coming out of the other side of the recession, but wage growth is at a minimum. And you hear stories that property prices have gone up 6 and 8%, but my wages haven't and my savings haven't. So we're not even treading water, we're swimming against the tide. You've got to have side gigs going on, mate. You've got to develop other things. It's tough. It's not fun. It's hard. Is he doing Ubering on the side? What other businesses could he be doing to generate some income? I mean, we're not living like the past, guys. We're not going to have the same security as the boomers had, or even the generation before. You're not going to be able to sit in one job your whole life, buy a cheap property, and it just magically increases in value. It's not happening. You got to, It's not happening. The reason why the government is providing everyone with all this stuff is they keep bringing in tax cattle in there because they want their tax cattle, because given the free stuff wins them elections, and then that puts pressure on our housing stock. Then you've got the not in my backyard people that want all these rules and regulations on the housing, so then it becomes even more expensive. Then you've got the hippies wanting all of these environmental requirements on housing. So now a house needs to have this. You need to get this stupid report, this other piece of rubbish. And that increases the costs. Then it gets to a point where to build a little house is so expensive, you might as well build a bigger house and then sell it for a bigger amount. And then people can't even get in. Oh, and don't worry about land. That's an investment. We don't need to mention that in CPI. Sure, the ABS tracks it and other figures. That's never mentioned in the bloody news. So welcome to Australia, guys. So in a way, she's right. The politicians don't care. Oh, and let's not even discuss negative gearing. Miss Kit added, every time we save that little bit more than the house prices go up, then we save more and house prices go up. So you're constantly chasing tail. So you can never get a fibro house in the suburbs as a 20% deposit is huge. You need to move. You're not financially at a level to be able to afford to live in Sydney. It's not for you. Now, is that too harsh, guys? Is this just people realizing, you know, I've got a mate, he lives in inner city Brisbane. He's got a house, at least $1-2 million bucks, if not more now. Beautifully done. It's a Balimba suburb. We designed a Lorna Jane fit out there. You know, it's where Kevin Rudd used to live. I couldn't think of a worse place to live. Yeah, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But the blocks are so small. I mean, we've got, what, over 600 meters, and that's not even big. So, to boost their savings, the couple are eating at home as much as possible, selling their daughter's clothes when she grows out of them, but Miss Kid said there isn't much fat to trim. Well, yeah, that's what you have to do. You really need to cut back. She's only working 3 days a week. What else could you do? How could you earn money at home? You know, could she sew? Could she create things? Could she sell non-fungible tokens of artwork to the crypto people? The option to stay close to Amy's family is also invaluable as her parents look after their daughter, saving them on childcare costs. I know people would say, why don't you look out at Broken Hill or somewhere like that, but having that support network of family to help us out with other parts of life. And also, my parents are getting older. You don't want to be too far away, said Miss Kids. Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I respect that. I mean, you want to be close to your family. Particularly when they get older, guys. I don't want to come across as poor us. As you know, there are people in worse situations. But I can't keep going on with the property market like this. Or maybe you don't buy in. Maybe you just rent. If you want to live close to your parents. You can't afford to buy. Or you got to earn more money. Mr. Kitts revealed that they've also had to press pause on plans for expanding the family. Now, this is the thing that I hate the most. Everyone always says this. It's because they're scared. Because they're worried. And, well, they're right, in a way. Sadly, they're right. Because the bank will look negative on you if you have a lot of kids. There's another family at our church that, oh, how many? They had like 10 kids or a crazy number. They make us look normal with our 5. And they said the same thing. Just getting money from a bank is a nightmare. And they're earning a lot of good money. So you combine that with being self-employed. You combine that with having a large family. This is why. Because the banks are negative on kids. So housing is getting expensive. The government keeps pulling in more people to prop up the housing market in a regards, unintentionally even if it is. So people have to save more money to get into housing. And don't worry, CPI doesn't really take account of the increase in land value because that's an investment. So, but people still have to struggle harder to get into housing. And then they put off having family. So the government is worried about a population growth. So increases the amount of people that come into the country, which just completes the circle. This is the saddest thing. You're going to miss out on a lot of joy, honestly. And having a family is a wonderful thing. You know, And kids don't cost that much. Just don't spoil them. Come on. It's easy. I wonder if my children will ever watch this one day, years later. We have one child now, and we're thinking about a second one. And that has obviously put the brakes on that for now. And who knows if that will ever change. He said, well, you got to hurry, mate. Your wife's getting old. How old is she? She's what, 37? Or 38? No, 35. Okay, so she had her first at 33. Yeah, that's pushing it. You're getting older there. You gotta hurry. You know, time is slipping away. The older you get, guys, the harder it is to have kids. Particularly if your first one is you leave it late. And if Rachel's reading all these books right now just about the impact of long-term birth control on the pill and how it can just screw your body up, and it takes up to 2 years to get out of your system. It's crazy. So, we want a home for our little family. I can understand that. We're not looking for waterfront property with room for a pony. We're just looking for a regular house and hope the house will have the things you need for your young family, like childcare and schools in the area that are good. Everyone wants that. I mean, look at these places here. Look. They've got no bloody backyards, or tiny ones. They're so close together, guys. You know. But Miss Kidd said they're not the only one being put in a difficult situation of choosing between a house and children. I've got friends at work who are having to make the decision of whether to start a family or buy a house. Some have thought they can't do both, as they need to have an asset when they're older. Oh no. So pick to buy a house rather than start a family, which is devastating for them to have to make that decision, she said. Then move! Then go, no, screw you. I'm not playing by the rules. I'm going to do it my way. Come on, this is pathetic. That's pathetic. I feel sorry for those people, but I find it kind of disgusting in a way too. You just man up and you have a bloody family. People have done it throughout all of human history. You know, come on. So you can buy a house. Literally, the house across the road sold. And I spoke to the new people that bought it in. They're doing it up. They're going to rent it out. Which kind of can work well or not. But I remember talking to the previous owner. He'd spread his father's ashes in the tree with the plants, and they really loved the garden, and he was hoping the new people would take care of it. What do you think the new owners are doing? They're going there just chainsawing it all gone. It's a house, guys. Won't remember you when you're dead. Come on. So they're putting all their hopes and dreams, all their financial security in a house because a property only ever goes up. And they're not having a family. That's the saddest thing out of all of this. We've got some serious problems in this country, everyone. We really do. If people are choosing this. Because what's going to happen when they're all older? Population growth is going to be in the toilet. No one's going to buy your houses. You wind up like Japan. All the demographics of the country will change so much you won't recognize it. I just worry. I don't want our generation to be the ones that have to rely on our parents for help to get a house when we are old, to rely on children to pay for the nursing home. Well, in some ways, I wouldn't feel guilty about that because parents are being kept in their houses because of government intervention in the market. Okay? So don't feel bad about that. You're going to have to be paying the taxes anyway. How many civil servants are getting nice, very generous super contributions that far exceed anything they've contributed in because they've got these bullshit fantasy, guaranteed payment plans? It's all crap. These are all luxuries that previous generations have that we're paying for. A lot of younger friends we have thought through work that are probably in their mid-20s, they are terrified what the future will be for them. At the moment, they are happily renting in house shares, but they're pretty nervous about the future. And Sarah Sharples from news.com has written this article. So, there we go, everyone. There we go. Some real depressing things coming out of this. But the truth is, and this is going to sound harsh, they're not Sydney. You've got to move somewhere else, guys. You're not going to be able to live the life that your parents had. Get out of there. Go to another city. Come to Brisbane. Do a change of life. Get your parents to sell and get them to move too. You know, just a house, guys. Don't put that before having a family. Come on. That's that alone, that people are putting having a family aside just to get a bloody house, shows you this country is in a complete mess. It's kind of hopeless. What's the future for Australia then? Anyway, guys, there you go. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. What suggestions would you give to that couple? Do you think more and more people are realizing they're not going to be living the same life as the previous generations? It's just the way it is. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.